Hey guys, Chris Dunn back with you, and in this video lesson, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin versus Ethereum, which one's going to win. So as of this week, for really the first time ever, the mainstream media is starting to pick up on Ethereum and kind of the cryptocurrency 2.0 or 3.0 technology that if you've been in the cryptocurrency community, you know about all this stuff, but for the first time ever, this is now starting to hit the general public. And I told my students several months ago, I said, guys, look, whenever the mainstream media starts to pick up on Ethereum and they start to announce or release news pieces about these other cryptocurrencies, that's going to create a flood of new buying activity. And just to kind of take a look here, 2 days ago, CNBC came out with an article that said Ethereum, a virtual currency that rivals Bitcoins. And then yesterday, literally like 24 hours ago, we had this article came out that said today's top read for entrepreneurs, pretty strong language, is Ethereum the new Bitcoin? And so, the insiders, as I like to say, people that are in the cryptocurrency community on a daily basis have known, obviously, about Ethereum for the past couple of years, but it's really only started to gain traction this year. And if we take a look at a chart, you can see this is the beginning of 2016 right here. It basically went up about 15x. It started really, really slow after it initially hit the exchanges, and then only here in late January did it really start to ramp up, and this is where I actually started buying. So if you've been following me for a while, or if you are a student of mine, you know that we've had some absolutely huge trades on Ethereum. In fact, I've grown my account really nicely over the past couple of months just by taking 3 or 4 breakout trades, and then right now we're kind of consolidating. But one thing that happened is a couple of days ago, right here actually is where the CNBC article hit. And you can see, there hasn't been that much buying activity, but it has actually held up price pretty well. And, this is just really interesting because I'm kind of dubbing 2016 as the year of altcoins. Over the past couple of months, a lot of these coins that have been dead for several months are starting to attract new liquidity and new buyers. And so, and I've always said that probably 90% or more cryptocurrencies are going to go to zero, right? Most of them eventually are not going to be worth anything. That's why I think it's a much better strategy to be a trader, to actually trade with discipline and risk management in and out of these. And then obviously you can invest in the ones that you believe in long term, but you don't want to just be a buy and hope investor. I got some emails from people that were like, Chris, I was buying for the first time way up here. What do I do? And that's the mentality that got the same people in trouble when Bitcoin went from 100 to 1,000 and then people bought at 1,000. You have to think like a trader, even if you don't want to be a day trader. If you just understand the mentality of the markets and understand mass human psychology, it's going to put you on the right side of the market instead of ending up doing what most people do, which is buying high and selling low, the exact opposite of what everybody knows to be rational, right, or true. And so I just wrote this article that kind of explains my thoughts, and I'm going to post this video in the blog post. But basically what I want to do here is just go through kind of the basics of what Bitcoin and Ethereum is. So Bitcoin launched in 2009, kind of in the wake of the global financial crisis, and it's really like the first successful cryptocurrency experiment. And, we call it an experiment because nobody knew if it was going to work. And there were a lot of haters. In fact, from 2011 to 2013, you couldn't tell me about Bitcoin. I thought it was, some kind of penny stock pump and dump. I just didn't have time for it. But in 2013 is when I realized, okay, this thing is not going away. It's here to stay. You can make money from it. And so I started trading it, and that's where I started actually doing really well. And I've, put out blog posts like this where I recap all of my trades and all of my predictions, and you can see why I've been so accurate with a lot of these trades and a lot of these calls. It's just a really, really great market environment to be a trader. And, there's a lot of people that have been traditionally in the stock market or futures markets, and now they're starting to shift into cryptocurrencies, not abandoning what they were doing, but understanding that, hey, there's a lot of profit potential in these markets. And so that's why I'm investing so much time, because I think the future is really in these types of markets. I'm calling it the re-democratization of the financial markets. I've seen the markets change from the late 90s, early 2000s, from a primarily human-based trading arena to around 2008, when the high-frequency algorithms and other types of algorithmic trading came in. It actually started to change the way that markets traded. And some people have argued with me at that point. They say, oh, no, the markets are the same. That's just not true. The markets have dramatically changed since about 2007 to where we are today. And now with these new markets, and we're going to start to see decentralized markets, decentralized exchanges, obviously on decentralized cryptocurrencies, right? So there's just a big shift in not only the technology, but kind of the mindset. And everyone from the startup scene in Silicon Valley to the public markets on Wall Street and everybody in between is now embracing blockchain technology and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and Ethereum. And we're going to start to see things like dApps, decentralized apps, which are coming out in mass, and there's kind of a gold rush there right now. Also, kind of what we call BaaS, blockchain as a service, kind of like SaaS, software as a service. But now, blockchain is going to really start to change the way that a lot of industries operate, everything from real estate to government tracking and reporting and financial. I mean, it's the spectrum is really unlimited when it comes to what coins or markets or whatever you want to call it, whatever these platforms like Ethereum and Factom can do. It's going to change a lot more than the general public or even insiders, I think, understand. So just keep going here. That's kind of what Ethereum is it's kind of the next generation of blockchain technology, where people can basically run censorship resistant decentralized applications. So what does that mean? Well, if you're running an application on a platform like Ethereum, it's kind of like running it on a torrent, right? Where there's no centralized server or no centralized control that you can shut down. So for good or for bad, we're going to see how this evolves. There's going to be applications out there that are running that essentially are very difficult, near impossible to shut down. And so that's going to create a lot of opportunity and really shake up a lot of established industries. And so whenever I look at a cryptocurrency to say, like, okay, is this going to be a winner or is it a pop and flop? I really look at two things. I want to know about the long-term survivability, right? I want to know, what's the community and the development behind this cryptocurrency? Like Ethereum has raised, in the beginning, they raised several $1 million, and they've grown that into about $1 billion market cap because of the development and the work that they put in. Factom, similar idea. They came out with an idea that works with Bitcoin technology, and they said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to work with governments, and here's how we're going to change things. And it's a very slow process, but they raised some good money, and they're doing some good work over there. And then you have just, pump and dump coins, and 90% of the coins that are out there are eventually going to go to zero. And then the second thing that I look at is, what's the current trading profit potential? Does it have liquidity? Does it have volatility? Does it move, and does it have money? Or is it just a thinly traded crap coin? And, here's just a brilliant example of a high profit potential market, where Ethereum, when it started off, I was telling people in January, I said to my students, I said, guys, listen, do not underestimate what Ethereum can do. Nobody expected Bitcoin to go from 100 to 1,000, just like very few people expected Ethereum to go from $1 to $15. That's a massive, massive return. And if you look at kind of, where Ethereum got going, if you just adjust the scale, I mean, this alone is a big move. Nobody expected, look at this, how it just goes off the screen, right? Hindsight is always 20/20, but this is why being able to anticipate as a trader is just so powerful, because it allows you to open up and see the bigger moves. And I had several trades in here where I made over 100% return in just a few days, right? Now, that doesn't happen every day, and you have to be patient for those types of moves. But whenever I'm looking at a crypto, these are the two things that I ask. And like Ethereum, whenever you see the volume picking up and the trends starting to develop, that's a good sign that you could make some damn good money trading it. So whenever we analyze, going back to the question of which one's going to win, Bitcoin or Ethereum, there's just a few things that I like to analyze about Bitcoin. And I'll let you actually go back and read this blog post fully. I think it's really important. But the best analogy that I can give is Bitcoin to me is kind of like AOL in the early 90s, right? If you guys remember the CDs that you could get at your grocery store that said 50 free hours of internet, right? And internet was basically very controlled, right? You had to go through the AOL platform. You had different functionality, right? You had chat rooms, you had, websites, you had all these different things, but it was in the AOL bubble. And that's kind of like Bitcoin right now. It's the first successful experiment. It's wildly successful. It really is impressive what Bitcoin's been able to do. And Bitcoin also has its challenges. I've always agreed with the skeptics that have said that Bitcoin right now, the way that it operates, cannot scale to global use, right? It can't even handle a fraction of the hourly or daily credit card transactions that occur. I mean, it's not even close. There's some big strides. And with the block size debate and a lot of kind of the fighting that's been happening in the Bitcoin development community, there's some big hurdles. I see Bitcoin either succeeding long term or being a massive failure and somebody else stepping in and taking its place. And nobody knows what's going to happen. It's really up to the developers to figure out where they want to take it. And whenever you look at things like Ethereum is kind of the next generation of this. They're looking at Bitcoin and saying, what are the issues and how can we improve on that? And Ethereum is actually much more than Bitcoin's core. It's basically a platform that you can develop on top of, and it makes it a lot easier to release dApps and, different types of products and services. So we're going to see in the near future where this is headed, but I think the ultimate winner is really going to come down to, what can Bitcoin do from where it's at now? It's either going to, the fighting's going to continue and the development is going to kind of hinder off and the talent is going to jump over into other cryptocurrencies, or they're going to get their shit together and make some big strides. So my biggest thing is this. I am a fan of the cryptocurrency space, but I'm not a buy-in hoper and I'm not loyal to any single coin, right? It's kind of like survival of the fittest. I want to go where the most innovation and the smartest people are. Ultimately, that's what's going to win, okay? So just kind of pay attention where people are putting their focus, where the development dollars and resources and focus and energy is going. And I think if you focus on that, you're going to be on the right side of the coin. And when it comes to profiting with cryptos, right now, I feel like is one of the most exciting times in history because we really do have like unprecedented opportunity. This is basically the biggest financial revolution that we've seen in the last 100+ years. And there's so many ways to make money between trading, investing, and entrepreneurship. If you're a developer or if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're, just an investor and you're looking to build a portfolio of cryptos, or if you're like me and you're like an active trader, right? You can add one or as many of these avenues as you want. But I think for, kind of my advice would be just pay attention, right? Don't miss the train. Don't be the guy or lady that 5 years from now is going, oh crap, I should have paid attention. Oh man, I heard about Bitcoin, right? Like had I gotten in 2 years earlier, I don't think my life would be dramatically different, but I would know a little bit more and right, I would have been able to ride that from just a few bucks up to, a couple hundred, but I got to participate in 2013 to where we are today, and I've done quite well in this space. And I just feel like this is really the beginning. Cryptocurrencies obviously are not going away. If anything, they're gaining traction day over day. And this is just a great space to be in. So let me know if you guys have any questions or comments, if you agree, if you disagree, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. I'm actually getting ready to head off to Costa Rica and then Asia for a couple months. So I'm going to be doing videos on the road, and you guys are going to see some cool interviews with entrepreneurs and investors out in Asia. And we've got some projects that we're actually working on in places like Myanmar, which is a really cool space that's opening up. So hope to bring some blockchain tech to that side of the world as well. So thank you guys for watching. Hope this is helpful. See you in the next video. Take care.